I'm going to discuss the workability and disadvantages of abolishing SAT. Abolishing SAT should not be abolished because it hurts the admissions process of largely populated colleges, and low SAT scores is not the cause of socioeconomic statuses and race, but instead the education received at schools. The SAT helps colleges by making the admissions process quicker. According to Michael Cohen, chairman of the UC and Academic Senate, which would have to approve Atkinson's proposal of abolishing the SAT, estimates that changing the admissions procedure to resemble that of an elite liberal arts college may require a 100% increase in the admissions budget. So elite liberal arts colleges are small colleges who can abolish the SAT because they only get about 5,000 or so applicants, while like UC schools get 50,000 applicants, and so they don't have the time to go through each applicant if the SAT. If they don't have the SAT, they have to go through and see how they are doing in all the classes in the school. When the SAT gives them a score on how well-rounded they have learned their courses in school. So the increase would be for admissions officers who have to go to the schools and actually get to know the students individually. The College Board says that across many colleges, SAT scores improves the correlation between admissions, predictions, and GPA realities by 10%. And 10% means a lot on big campuses that I can't afford to spend hours getting to know applicants. So if you have a smaller school, then yes, SAT optional would be more beneficial, but in reality, there's not enough time to get to every student and give every student equal amount of time, so that would not be fair. The SAT score is not the cause of socioeconomic statuses and race, but instead the education received at schools. In an interview, Sackett said from an article, new research finds SATs equally predictive for those with high and low socioeconomic statuses, that many people believe that the predictive value of the SAT disappears when taken by low-income individuals, and that this belief raises many concerns about the test. But he said the new study debunks that view and shows that the predictive value is not even diluted. He suggests that the SAT reflects real differences in learning and skill acquisition, not socioeconomic statuses. So it's not the SAT's fault that the kids are not, lower income students are not scoring as high. It's the high school, they're not being offered courses that are being taught as well at schools that have more money to spend, like they can buy AP tests and AP classes. Low-income schools aren't going to be able to afford teachers who can teach AP classes, so it's not the SAT's fault. To the extent colleges are more likely to admit students from higher socioeconomic groups because they apply to those schools. Low-income students can't afford the application fee just in general. It's not. They not only can not afford the SAT when they have the fee waiver, but it's the application fee that they can't afford. So the SAT is not the only problem, if there is a problem with that, the socioeconomic status. The nonprofit College Board, which oversees the SAT, is critical of colleges that select applicants based on small score differences that aren't statistically significant. Lawrence Bowen, College Board Senior Vice President, says the board's own research shows limited benefit from test prep courses. He says familiarity with the SAT tends to provide the biggest short-term gains for students. He recommends a free, low-cost College Board material, including a $20 study guide. So if your score is like only 40 points difference, the colleges aren't going to not accept you. They're going to look at other things like extracurricular activities, your grades in school, and so wealthier students, they might have a higher score, but the lower income students can try to boost their chances of getting to the college by doing more extracurricular activities or getting higher grades in school. And if they want study guides, then it's only $20 study guide, or they can go to the library. So there's other ways to find help to pass the SAT. The disadvantage claim is that if the SAT is abolished, then the greater emphasis is placed on grades and extracurricular activities. The effect is greater on African Americans, and the educational problem is not solved. A greater emphasis is placed on grades and extracurricular activities. Despite its many flaws, the SAT remains an indispensable part of the college admissions process. It helps to check the rampant grade inflation that seems to be plaguing high schools across the country. Why should an admissions officer simply take the word of a teacher that a student deserves an A? That was by Amin Gahami in a defense of the SAT by the Columbia Spectator. One student who took class, like culinary arts in school and got an A, is not equivalent to a student who took chemistry and got an A. The SAT is objective and it's the same test. You take the same test, and your score is based only on that test, not what kind of teacher. Maybe your teacher was not a very good teacher in school. So the SAT is not the fault of the SAT if you have a bad score. There's other reasons that cause it. The effects of abolishing the SAT makes the admission process more biased. In the realm of college admissions, this means judging the ability and potential of each student for college work and admitting the best qualified, regardless of what racial group he or she might belong to. So the SAT does not have like a box for you to it doesn't like you get more points on what race you are. It's all standardized. They're not going to care if you're a certain race. It's on how well you can write, critical think, and do math. And the College Board says SAT questions are always previewed by large samples of test takers, and any questions that generate racial disparities are tossed out before they appear on SAT's account. So the SAT is not, the SAT is checked for any racial problems in the SAT, so the racial gap is lessened by college, by the SAT. And some schools that are more low income, some races might tend to go to that school, so it's actually beneficial for you to take the SAT because then you won't be affected by your race. Abolishing the SAT merely ignores the educational problem. According to Booker Peak, professor of African American Studies at Oberlin College, abolishing the blood and EKG test would do nothing to reduce disease, and abolishing the SAT would do nothing to improve the academic health of American students. So, our claim is that the SAT is not the problem, but the education given at high school.